morning.
From 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show.
Right here on WSKB 89.5.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Travel on, there's one day here and the next day gone. Sometimes you bend, sometimes you stand, sometimes you turn your back to the wind. There's a world outside every darkened door where blues won't haunt you anymore, where the brave are free and lovers soar. Come ride with me to the distant shore. We won't hesitate to break down the garden gate. There's not much time left today.
Hey.
9:07 on the nose.
Good morning, and welcome to Superintendent Spotlight.
Uh-oh.
It is June 1st. Can you believe it, Pete?
Holy cow.
Where did the spring go? And of course, we have graduation. So today it's a graduation, two graduations today. Well, we have the Westfield Virtual School graduation today at 1 o'clock.
Correct.
At Westwood on the 4th floor where the school is actually located. And then, of course, tonight at 7 o'clock, Westfield Tech Academy will graduate. And the only thing I think it's going to be is hot because it's not going to rain.
I might have to go put on the jorts.
Yeah, we were talking about,
Yeah.
I have a black gown, which when the sun is on, I mean, it just really heats you up. Black
think?
cracks the sun.
We're going to be in
Yeah.
the football press box, which is, a tin
Oh.
can oven.
Yeah.
That's
There's
1,000
no
degrees.
air conditioning in that, Pete.
It's an easy bake oven. That's why I'm definitely considering going home and changing into shorts for tonight.
No, you have to for survival.
You have
Yeah,
to.
and I'm bringing a small cooler full of water for everybody.
Well, good thing I wear that black gown because I just spilled coffee on myself, so that's good.
You all right?
Yeah,
Oops.
Well, the good news about tonight's graduation, though, with Westfield Tech, it is by far the shorter of the two.
It is. There are
Your
100
guest is here.
There are 124 graduates at Westfield.
Hey, there he
Our
is.
guest today, by the way,
You're dealing with a golf shirt today. That's all. We're
that's right here, is State Senator John Veals. It's going to be a hot one today.
That's precisely why I'm doing it. It was in a suit and tie all weekend, which is great. But I said this week I'm going golf shirt unless I have to be in like a form, which I do.
Well, we were talking about graduation tonight. So you're
Tonight.
coming to graduation,
And tomorrow, right?
right, and tomorrow. We're hopeful. Tonight's going to be outside, but it's going to be hot. At 7
Must be
p.m., it's
90
still going to
there, right?
be 88 degrees.
Yeah, it's gonna be hot.
And so we were just talking about, I don't think I'm going to wear a tie. I mean, I have to wear that black gown, the graduation gown anyway, so I don't think anyone ever sees my
Well,
tie.
knows what you're. Yeah, there
No,
you go. Wear whatever you got
I
it.
wear a T-shirt. No one would even know the
And
difference.
where I'm sitting, like in the way back of the cheap seats behind there, like no one, like seriously behind like school committee and the mayor and everybody. I'm in the back. No one's gonna know I don't have a tie on.
No. And when I have a tie, I don't know about you, so you button up this, right? Put the tie on. All the heat just kind of...
It's hot.
It's hot. It's brutal. So
The mayor and I were looking at each other on Monday at Parker Park for the Memorial Day stuff. For the
Right.
wow, it's hot.
Oh yeah.
It's hot, and it's going to be. You're right. Today's going to be even hotter.
You
And
wonder.
tomorrow.
You wonder how like down south when they do graduations, like in
they must do it indoors.
it's got to be indoors, right?
I think-
Unless you've got like say a high school in like Miami-Dade that's got like 5,000 students. You know what I mean? Like like in
And
one
I just
class.
think you're used to it.
Yeah,
on some
the
level.
blood-
I just
their
think
blood
you
is
get
used to it,
accustomed
sure.
it. You just
Yeah,
go-
yeah.
Here I am. We were complaining before the show because tomorrow there could be some rain. Now I'm hopeful.
I feel like we went through this last year.
I do too.
Like potentially.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's no rain because, an indoor ceremony for Westfield High School, I've attended one in the gym, is oppressive.
Oh yeah, it's
I mean,
brutal.
it is so
Impressive.
hot.
And it's impossible for
tomorrow's
us to
gonna
try
be
to cover,
impressive.
too.
It's impossible to cover. But the worst part is the students go down to only 4 guests per student.
That's the worst part.
So if you have relative, because all we can fit. I mean, we
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
follow the fire code, folks. We can't
Yeah.
disregard that. So, so I will do everything in my power, and I haven't had to have an indoor graduation yet, and I'm knocking on wood here on the table, because
Yeah.
I don't want an indoor graduation.
What are they saying?
Chance of thunderstorms.
What time?
Well, so the times
Anytime
could
after
change.
4.
But even if, let's say, there's a quick storm that goes through 4 to 5, and then it's done, I would still have graduation.
oh yeah, yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure,
Absolutely.
Sure.
It's got to be like an active storm at 7 o'clock.
We've weatherproofed our cameras as
It'll
much
be
as
good.
we can.
I mean, I
so.
feel like there was a legit we're in trouble for tomorrow night last year.
Yeah.
And it was
And
like
then
a
it
beautiful,
turned out
beautiful,
perfect.
night.
Beautiful.
It was a
Right.
beautiful.
I love your optimism.
That's it. You got to have it.
I mean, I guess it's one thing if everybody's sitting outside and we see like a green sky heading our way and trees
But I've been there.
blowing
We've
down.
been there.
Yeah.
I've been on sitting in the seat watching my handheld Doppler radar, right, from the Weather Channel. And once we were at a tech graduation and I saw green all around us on the map, and I was just like, thank
Zap,
you.
I remember when it rained on the north side of town and it didn't rain.
Didn't rain
at
here. Remember that?
graduation.
I don't know. I mean, hopefully we
That's
have that kind
clear divine.
So put that
intervention there.
positive energy
It's
out
like
to the
7
universe.
to 8, right? So that is that because I don't feel like they're that.
Westfield
Tonight
High
is
is a
7
little
to
long.
8. Westfield High, I believe, got out about 8:30.
But it wasn't that. I mean, I remember last year leaving and saying, "Wow, it's a very both of them are very efficient graduations."
Yes.
Sure.
And again, not that anybody is trying to move it along, but they were very efficient.
Absolutely. Well, let's be honest. After an hour, everybody's ready to go.
Well, yeah, and you say not that people are, and John, you're right, not that people are trying to move it along, but you got to be mindful that how many people are there watching, right? And then there is the weather factor, the heat,
Absolutely.
eventually rain. Yeah, so we are kind of moving it along.
One year when I was principal, we got to the S's, and then it started to sprinkle. And then so I flew through the rest of the names for WTA and ended the ceremony, and then boom, downpour. But
See?
but we didn't get soaked.
That's
for
right.
that.
That's
so,
the important thing.
So I think there's something happening.
We'll be all right. We'll
Yeah.
be all right.
I'm positive.
And if we're not, I'm going to blame Kelly Pease. We'll go with that.
Perfect. I like that.
Kelly did it.
By the way, so we have Mrs. Murphy's Donuts today because today's National Donut Day.
Is it really?
It
Really
is.
Those, I mean, Mrs. Murphy's Donuts might as well be. I may file a bill to ban them. That's how good they are.
They're
It's like literally that good.
Well, before you do
can
that,
smell 'em.
you might as well have one.
yeah. We're
Right.
gonna have them at the end.
Right.
but no donut quiz today, but
Oh, my God.
But we are going to
Stop.
talk a little bit about the. I mean, there you go.
Yeah,
Mrs.
I'm going to
Murphy's.
close it up because the smell is.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
They are. I really feel like if you're going to have a donut on National Donut Day and you live in this area, you have to have Mrs. Murphy's. I mean, no offense, Duncan. But
No offense, Duncan,
no.
but some of the other ones. I mean, I got put on the spot once, and I'm not answering this, so don't even go down this path. But it was like Mrs. Murphy's, and it was whole donuts. Have you had whole donuts?
Old
It's
school whole
yeah,
donut? Yeah.
unbelievable. And they're all in my district. And they're like, "What do you think is the best donut?" And I hemmed and I hawed, and I was just.
that's a trap.
It is a trap, and I think I invoked the Fifth Amendment.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But they're so good.
They are
National Donut Day.
Yeah.
Interesting. When
And-
were
Well, I
donuts
think-
invented?
But
So
If you have that answer.
he does. I'm sure he does.
trying to, I want to say it was brought over by the Dutch
yes.
in
Probably.
late 1800s.
What a creation.
Yeah. Oh, earliest accounts of donuts are attributed to the Dutch settlers that brought them over to New York in the late 1800s.
Wow.
And of course, we have some clips today we're going to play. So, you're probably used to this by now, but we play three songs today. Well, actually four, and we're going to guess the year that
Okay.
these songs came out. Just have a little fun. And we also have some Homer Simpson donut clips today because it's National Donut Day. So who else, when you think of donuts,
Absolutely.
who do
There
you
you
think
go.
of,
That's right.
right?
The only other person that comes to mind when I think of donuts is the guy that used to get up at 4:30 in the morning on those
Time to
pumpkin
make
days.
the
Time
donuts.
that guy.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
With a little
Yep.
mustache.
Yeah.
Remember that
Yep.
guy?
Yep.
He was good. But so each year on the first Friday in June, people participate in National Donut Day, celebrating the donut and honoring the Salvation Army lassies. Do you know who that is?
I do not.
The Salvation Army lassies are the women who served donuts to soldiers during World War I.
Oh,
It's a
wow.
very interesting story.
Wow.
In 1917, the original Salvation Army donut was first served by, again, the ladies in the Salvation Army, and it was during World War I that the lassies went to the front lines in Europe, home-cooked foods provided to our soldiers, and obviously was a morale boost to the troops. The donuts were often cooked in oil inside the metal helmets of an American soldier.
Wow.
And of course, American infantrymen were commonly called doughboys.
Doughboys.
Wow. Wow.
Look how educational this show is.
Wow.
Pete,
I
did you
didn't-
know any of that before? Where's Pete?
Wow. The Doughboys.
The
Huh.
Doughboys.
No, I did not know that.
I
I've
did
always
not
wanted to know
Yeah.
how they got called the Doughboys.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah, see? A little bit of trivia here.
Unbelievable.
Today on National Donut Day. So, but let's get to you, because we love having you. We have you on every year. I'm
Yeah.
glad you make the time.
Yeah, I love
for
being
us.
here,
I know that
absolutely.
you're busy.
No.
I'm going to go right to the thing I saw yesterday. All right. Last month was National Mental Health Month, and we talked about that on the show when Kelly was here. Actually,
That's right,
And we
that's
talked
right.
about the urgent need for services, and you proposed something, and I know there's a video on social media of you talking, which I watched, but I'm not going to repeat what you said because that's for you. But yeah. Well, no, and I'm excited by it, and so talk to us about a little bit what you've proposed and what's going to happen with it because it's needed.
Well, even before I kind of get into that, I just kind of want to lay the foundation of, so this session, I've been named the chair of the Mental Health Substance Use and Recovery Committee.
Nice.
And it's
terrific.
It's a big, and I guess I'd even digress for a second and say one of the hardest parts for me so I'm that chair, and I'm also still the chair of Veterans and Federal Affairs. So two committees and kind of moving up the food chain, if you will, the ladder. And it's great. And it's great for the district. But one of the things that it does is it requires more Boston time. And I love district time because
Sure.
that's my favorite part of the job. That being said, the committee, the Mental Health Substance Use and Recovery Committee, I would argue with anybody that mental health challenges, really behavioral health, are, if not the most pressing, certainly a top tier issue right now that we're being confronted with here in the Commonwealth and beyond.
It's almost a pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I would say it is.
Epidemic for sure.
Yeah, it really is.
Sure.
It's a concern.
And one of the real troubling components of this is that all of these studies, whether it's the CDC 2 months ago or the Surgeon General just last week, talking about the mental health impact on kids, adolescents,
social media,
Well, we'll get to that if you want.
Happy to,
because that's a big part of it. But anyway, so all of these reports have one thing in common, and what they say is that we need to do a much better job with school-based mental health, because for many kids, if they're not getting those supports and wraparound services in schools, then they're not going to get them.
And so just so you know, I agree with you 100%. And for that reason, we brought in and partnered with River Valley Counseling in Westfield Public Schools.
It's great.
And so there's a counselor at every school. And so what we had heard before, and I'm not throwing anyone anywhere, I think, under any buses or anything, I'm just saying, because there's a shortage of mental health professionals as well. Students that were going to, say, BHN were being put on 6-month waiting lists. And the reality is our kids can't wait 6 months for mental health services. So we brought in River Valley for that particular reason. We still have a waiting list. And we added eight counselors to our district using ESSER funds to try to help with the mental health concerns. And we're seeing it really pre-K to 12.
Yeah.
And, anxiety, depression, and a host of other issues for our kids, and we want to help them. And so it's interesting because there was a recent conversation somewhere where someone was talking about well, we've got to get back to teaching curriculum and rigor and everything else. And I agree with that. I do.
Sure.
But if our kids aren't in a mental place to accept that instruction, then we're wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
Well, you can't break an omelet without, what is it? You can't make an omelet without breaking eggs, right? So if we want our kids to achieve at a high level, right, we need, like you said,
we have to help them be school ready.
It's Maslow's hierarchy of need. We got to feed them. We got to make sure they're mentally prepared, and we got to provide a safe environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sad. I mean, and hopelessness, and then even in many of these studies,
hopelessness was one of the words.
One of the words.
Yes.
It's suicidal ideations.
Yes.
And it's just sad. So anyway, what I put forward the program that I think you're talking about, is that there was a model in Texas, of all places, and I don't say that as a shot at Texas, but it's interesting that Texas in this space is actually leading. They're the only state that done it. So there's a program.
I am a little shocked. I'm not even.
I go ahead, John. I'll comment.
Well, no, it was just. So this is So anyway, so long story short, there's this program called MCPAP in Massachusetts, which we are leading on, and essentially it is this: is that a kid goes to their pediatrician, and they, while they're there, express some type of something that causes that pediatrician to say, I think there's some behavioral health concerns going on here. So we created this program, MCPAP, where pediatricians can pick up the phone and within that day hear back from someone in behavioral health space. And that's
the quickest turnaround.
It's quickest turnaround there is. Yeah. And one of the things that we took from that is, and it could be hey, kid is presenting with anxiety, depression. This is not my lane. Thinking of prescribing medication A or thinking of doing X, Y, and Z, what do you think? Because one of the things that really is I've been taken aback by is just, you've already referenced this, how few providers there are in the behavioral health space. So to get that turnaround, Massachusetts has been a trailblazer in this regard, allowing that feedback immediately. That day is what the standard is, and that's what the funding for. So a lot of people got together, and I want to credit Boston Children's Hospital.
Okay.
Having a lot of meetings when I got named the chair, they said, Senator, this is them talking to me. Not for nothing, but, that there's an assumption that many kids, like the majority of kids, are going to these doctor's appointments. that they're going to all these doctors and they're doing it in a 3-month checkup, a 6-month checkup, a 3-year-old checkup, et cetera. And the reality is data tells us they're not.
I was just going to say, we know differently.
Yeah, we know differently. So
That's why the access in schools is important.
yeah, and then they said, and where they went was, so we just want to tell you that Texas has kind of emulated the McPack program, but in schools. So what we brought forward is a pilot program, which I'm going to not get ahead of myself, but ensure that there's going to be some Western Mass part of that pilot program to say,
If you need a volunteer,
yeah, well,
I
and
can think of a school district that might be.
and I'm kind of winking.
I'm
at
a
you
little
guys.
less shameless than you are. I'm just going to come right out and say it.
So you have 8 providers now, and that's awesome. And I would say you're leading on that.
Yeah, but they're funded by ESSER, and that expires. At the end of the year. So that was going to be my next point.
And also, you have a good
next?
cross section in the school district
and it's going to be so. John Vilas is in 5th grade in the Westfield Public Schools. John Vilas goes to one of those providers, or maybe one of those providers is tied up because the waiting lists are insane. Same philosophy. Going to be able to pick up the phone and call and all those details, whether it's BHN or whether it's whoever, and going to get back that response immediately. So it's going to be, okay, this is what you need to do to deal with this situation right now. However, we are going to get this kid in the pipeline of come and see us.
And not wait 6 months.
6 months. Not 6 months.
I mean, 6 months is an eternity.
Workforce shortages is
everywhere.
So did you hear me talk about Westfield State, what I did at Westfield State? Was that part of my remarks?
Yeah.
So
you're doing it here, too.
Well, I'm doing it here now. And I think this is important because this speaks to it. So I go to Westfield State, and I'm going to be doing these in the Westfield Public Schools.
Yeah, these June 8th.
June 8th, these listenings. I love the fact that you know my calendar better, which is awesome.
I do my homework.
Because my team is just, they're so fed up with me with just,
where am I supposed to be?
Where am I supposed to be? So anyway, I go to Westfield State, and the president did such a good job.
She's amazing.
She is absolutely
She's terrific.
Amazing.
Yep.
You're going to have a meeting. You're going to have a listening session with students. So I'm walking in. I'm thinking, okay, there'll probably be 5 to 10. There's 200 people there.
Wow.
200 people there. PA students, RN students, social workers, every type of student in the world. Behavioral health, tell me what's going on. How can I help? First, I want to know how many of you here would contemplate a career path in behavioral health. I thought it was 0. My legislative aide with me said there was 1 young lady in the back who raised her hand. So 1 out of, again, roughly 200.
200.
That's not really encouraging.
Not at all.
0.05. That's 0.05%.
Wow, that was impressive. And then I said, okay, yeah.
Where'd you pull that out?
Yeah, that was fast.
The air right there?
Truth.
That was fast.
Right?
And then I said, okay, all right. So it's not in your career path. It's not in your mindset right now. So let me ask you this. If the state were to offer incentives in the forms of loan reimbursement, scholarships, and other things, raise your hand if you would consider going into this. Almost with the exception of 2 or 3, they all raised their hand. And the timing was completely optimal in that the following week, we had $200 million left from ARPA funding.
Right.
And what we did is we said, okay, we are going to dedicate all of that money to behavioral health, to loan forgiveness, to scholarships, stuff like this. The reality is that
that's how you attract people to the field.
That's how you get people in the field.
Well, nobody wants to graduate college, go into a job that might pay them, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000 a year but they're saddled with $300,000 worth
and that's
of
just
debt.
it. And that's a really big problem. So the pay, if you look at parity between behavioral health and physical health, even though there are laws on the book, and I don't want this.
The difference in pay is
it is.
It's ridiculous.
And
hold on, Pete, you were going to say something about the cross section because John can't hear you because he's not wearing.
He's not wearing his headphones.
Was I supposed to put them on? Sorry.
So
what were you going to say?
I would think that this school district, because it's cross section of affluent, poor, different cultures and stuff, would be a good pilot program. And the other thing that just came up just now was, wouldn't something like the program you're talking about giving college incentives, Wouldn't that be great for the federal level, setting up a wing of AmeriCorps that could do that?
AmeriCorps is great. AmeriCorps is great. And to your first part, absolutely. One of the beautiful things about Westfield, and I tell all my colleagues this, is Westfield is a microcosm of the world, certainly of the country.
Yeah,
in terms
for sure.
of the most affluent to poverty, and you've got everything in between. So it's a really good test case, if you will, of if you want to see Massachusetts at large, Westfield is actually a very natural place to do something like this.
Agreed.
Without state senators zealously advocating for it, because you're going to.
Although we appreciate that zealous advocacy. All right, we got to take our first break.
Yeah,
Can
sure.
you play a clip, and then we'll go into our first song, which is "You're Not Alone" by Michael Jackson. It was number 21 in the year we're looking for.
Donuts.
Hey, Homer, slow down. You're gonna choke or something.
Don't tell me how to eat donuts.
Another day is gone. I'm still all alone. How could this be? You're not here with me. You never said goodbye. Someone tell me why did you have to go and leave my world so cold?
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
And welcome back to Superintendent Spotlight. June 1st here, 9:33 a.m. I don't know what the temperature is, but it was already in the 70s.
Well, it's 74 in the studio.
Yeah. And your jacket's off.
Right away today.
Yes.
Actually, you know what was kind of funny is I can always tell, even when the day starts cool, at like this morning it started like 50, 55.
Yeah.
But I can always tell when I put my coat on every morning how the day's going to go. Like this morning I put it on and it's like, oh, it's 55 up. But the second I got in the car, I was like, I'm already sweating. That must mean
it's going to be a hot day.
The heat is on its way.
It's going to be a hot day.
No doubt.
So our guest today is State Senator John Vilas, and we're talking about the mental health crisis, really is what it is, and the work that you're doing to advance that. And we were talking about your listening tour, I guess, that you went to at Westfield State, but now you're doing it in Westfield Public Schools, right?
Absolutely.
When is and so that's coming up?
June 8th.
June 8th.
June 8th. And for me, it's...
And you're meeting with kids from both high schools, correct?
Correct.
Right.
And then, so obviously I got named the chair, and this takes time, and I know there's... I don't know if it's HIPAA agreements, but consent with the teacher, the kids, and all that.
Right.
Which
Christine and Carrie are taking care of all that. They're terrific. Christine Hupfer and Carrie Fertili.
They're phenomenal.
They are.
And to be honest with you, it's something I didn't even think about until I was like, oh, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I literally want to go in and sit down with these kids and say, what's going on?
I admire that so much because so many people will make rules, laws, legislation, whatever you want to call it, and they never even talk to the people that it affects the most.
That it impacts.
And our kids, you know, what we're seeing in our schools is a significant increase in mental health issues, and it also increases behavior.
Yes, it does.
Inappropriate behavior. And I think an attention-seeking behavior, right? I mean, it's a cry for help.
Yeah, and remember how we're wired and how we're designed, right? When we're faced with stress and stimulus, we usually have one of two responses: we either run, or we fight, right? Those are kind of how we're hardwired, and that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing kids they can't manage the situation that they're in for a variety of reasons, so they're either hiding, right, or they're running, or they're fighting. Right. So, and I don't mean physically all the time. I'm just saying mentally in the mind. So that's what our teachers and our counselors and our principals and our assistant
are trying to navigate,
and
it's taking up all of our time.
It's it's important work, and it takes priority over everything else. But it goes back to what we said at the start of the show. How do we raise student achievement and student learning if as educational leaders and teachers and counselors, if we're spending 90% of our time managing mental health of our students?
I'm going to bring up a sore subject in a way, but I have to. I mean, how many threat assessments have we had this year? Threats in schools are way up everywhere.
You put me on the spot. I don't know about the whole year, but I can tell you in the last 6 weeks alone, we've probably done 30. How
are we defining a threat assessment?
Sure.
Well, so a threat, they've threatened the school to cause some sort of...
Sure. So we have a protocol that is designed to, for lack of a better term, John, to tease out whether or not a threat that a student makes is actually credible and what level of threat he or she actually presents to the school. To their own well-being, to the school's well-being, to other.
So a threat is made.
Sure. So they could say something or do something or bring something into the building that they shouldn't have, right? That we are made aware of, and then we first thing we do is we mitigate the threat. We make sure there's no safety issue that can't be stopped right then and there, and then like anything else, we need to. We need to take action in terms of keeping the school safe with student discipline. But then ultimately we tease out what's really going on here. So we're peeling
There's always
back,
more to the story.
Right, we're peeling back the layers of an onion, so to speak, to figure out why the student said or did what he or she said or did. And we usually find out that there are these other factors that always are in play, not necessarily protective factors. Most of them are risk factors that our kids are dealing with, whether it's mental health, whether it's issues at home, whether it's issues at school, whether it's a combination of all three, right? And that helps us to put intervention into place for that particular student, as well as
the rest of the school,
keeping everybody else safe and secure. So it's a two-pronged approach. The old approach was student A comes in and says or does something dumb. We kick them out for 10 or 15 days, and they come back and nothing's really changed, right? But now when they come back, we've got a plan in place to help support that student right away.
Is that a significant uptick from years past?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier. There, you get confronted with a situation, and instead of using your words in a respectful manner and having actual discourse with someone or reporting something to someone who can help you, you take action into your own hands. And sometimes we know that when kids do that, and by the way, same for adults, by the way, when we do that, we don't always do it the best way possible.
And we're trying to. Again, when a kid makes a threat, there's usually something else going on.
Correct.
And we try to help. And that's something I think schools are facing across not just
the whole nation.
So what percentage? And this is really helpful for me because this component of it that I did not think that whatever is going on is also manifesting itself.
Absolutely.
In these threat assessments, whether they be real, perceived, or just a kid saying something that they don't.
But anytime they say something, we have to take it seriously.
Absolutely.
A threat is made. We got to take it seriously.
If a student says something, John, to the effect of, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z to you directly or to the school in general, we can't just say we can't just say, well, the kid is 5. Yeah. So there are things we have to look at, like the age of the student and the developmental, but at the same time, when we get to, say, age 16, 17, that could take on a whole new persona, right? So
it gets more complicated.
Right. So, but the bottom line
disrupts the school day as well.
Yeah.
Well, it disrupts the school because typically when these threats are made, they're not in isolation, so everyone hears it, and then it just causes. This is something that I think you asked was it an uptick? I would say times 10 since the pandemic. And let's be honest, the COVID probably enhanced. I don't want to say caused, but certainly enhanced the number of mental health. Well,
you're 100% right, Zap. That was in my opinion, and I'm not a physician. I'm just I'm an educator, right?
Yep.
That was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. That opened up the floodgates.
So I was at a conference in Chicago about a month ago on this, and it was chairs of respective states of mental health related committees. Whatever the committee is that deals with behavioral health issues, it was the chairs from the respective states. And this had a real impact on me. One of the speakers, she got up and she said, look, the first thing that I want to say to you is I want to disabuse you of the notion that this mental health crisis started because of COVID.
No, it was already there.
Yeah, long predates that. COVID certainly exacerbated it.
That's exactly the word I used.
That separation, that isolation.
Didn't help at all.
And which I guess is a natural segue to something that I'm taking a real hard look at. I've read several articles recently that say, no, this COVID exacerbated isolation, et cetera. But if you look at the prevalence and really the availability of social media.
Oh.
That's going to be our next topic.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Well,
all right. We're going to just revisit really quick some donut facts. Are you ready?
Okay,
No, we got to mix it up a little bit. We can't be all serious all the time. We can't be. What do you think the number one America's top? I have
glazed.
Glazed is number one. What do you think is number 2?
Chocolate.
Chocolate glazed?
Boston cream.
Boston cream. Go, Pete.
Now, Pete, that was my guess, but then I thought, that's got to be more localized to like the East Coast, right? Because it's Boston?
No, it's become popular across the country.
It is.
Okay.
Number 3 is chocolate frosted, chocolate glazed.
Right.
There you go.
I was going to say that for 2.
And the 4th is a jelly donut.
I'm not a big fan.
Listen, I love those old school, like, crawlers with jelly in them.
My dad's favorite donut right there.
Right
yeah.
there? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. The crawlers.
The number one, America's top 2 favorite donut chains with 41% comes Krispy Kreme, but we don't have any of those around here, right?
The closest one I think is what, Manchester? There
Yeah,
might
it's
be one in
Connecticut's got a
Manchester,
couple.
And then at 40%, it's Dunkin'. So we have no shortage of those.
Well, no, we've got one per every square mile in Westfield.
And they stay in business,
They stay
which
in
tells
business.
you.
So
just built a brand spanking new one in
They
the north
did.
side.
But-
Westfield runs on Dunkin'.
I
That is true.
think, and I could be wrong, gentlemen, but I think for National Donut Day, I think Dunkies gives out one
free donut.
One
You have
free
to have a
donut.
purchase of a coffee, yeah.
Yeah,
You have to have a purchase of a coffee.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of that, Pete, can you play our next clip and then our next song? The next song is Let Her Cry by Hootie and the Blowfish, number 26.
So you like donuts, eh? Well, have all the donuts in the world!
More.
I don't understand it. James Coco went mad in 15 minutes.
She sits alone by a lamppost, trying to find a thought that's escaped her mind. She says, Dad's the one I love the most, but Stipe's not far behind. She never lets me in, only tells me where she's been when she's had too much to drink. I say that I don't care, I just run my hands through her dark hair, then I pray to God you gotta help me fly away and just let her cry. Tears fall down like rain. Let her sing. If it eases all her pain, let her go. Let her walk right out on me. And if the sun comes up tomorrow, let her be. Let her be. This morning I woke up alone, found a note standing by the phone, saying maybe I'll be back someday. I wanted to look for you, you walked in, I didn't know just what I should do, so I sat back down and had a beer and felt sorry for myself, saying let her cry. If the tears fall down like rain, let her sing. If it eases all her pain, let her go. Let her walk right out on me. And if the sun comes up tomorrow, let her be. Let her be. Let her cry. If the tears fall down like rain, let her sing. If it eases all her pain, let her go. Let her walk right out on me. And if the sun comes up tomorrow, let her be. Last night I tried to leave, cried so much I could not
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
And this is Superintendent Spotlight. Thank you for watching or listening, however you're catching us on the air today. It is National Donut Day, so a couple more things. By the numbers, are you ready? 10 billion. That's the number of donuts made each year in the United States.
Actually, that
At
sounds...
a buck a pop, that's not a bad...
Yeah. Go ahead, Pete.
Buck or two a pop each now?
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Yeah.
2,480. That's the number. The city of Boston has one donut shop for every 2,480 people.
That I know for a fact.
That's a lot. 20. That's the number of donuts Renee Zellweger ate every day to gain weight for the sequel of Bridget Jones' Diary. Can you imagine eating 20 donuts a day?
Donuts.
No, no, because they have inherently zero nutritional value.
Zero.
They're the worst food you could eat.
I think they are. I think that's like
they're the scientifically proven.
It's fried. It's sugar.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
There's you can't gain weight in a better way than that.
I don't know why she chose to go donuts, but I don't think I could eat 20 a day.
Well, because they're so calorically dense. There's each one of these, by the way, is probably anywhere from 750 to 1,000 calories,
if not more. It might be your calorie requirement for the day. If you have 2 donuts, you're done for the day.
Sure.
Yeah. 9, the Guinness World Record for the most powdered donuts eaten in 3 minutes. And that must have been tough because powdered donuts are a bit dry, right? I mean, how do you
It's
not
like
choke
eating
on
cinnamon.
that?
That's disgusting.
It is. 201 million, the number of donuts consumed by Americans in 2020. 100,000, the number of donuts turned out every hour by Entenmann's. You know, Entenmann's.
Oh yeah, old school Entenmann's.
Yeah,
I like their
still around.
raspberry Danish.
Yep, they're very good. You're right. So there's some more facts. All right, we were going into the social media piece. I can't believe it's already 9:51. It's like this hour flies by.
Sure
when you come,
does.
John. Social media. There's a report that negative effect that social media is having on our kids. You started to talk about that, and you were going there before we hit the break.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at when social media kind of really gained prevalence, and by gained prevalence, I think I mean access by all, and when it really started to spread, some of the graphs that, availability of Facebook, Instagram, and now the new variation, Snapchat, TikTok, all the other ones. It's really remarkable how it kind of just dovetails with this uptick in behavioral health challenges for kids.
100%.
And again, I read the article the other day about, there's a lot of social scientists who've kind of moved beyond when they're analyzing things, like the difference between correlation and causation.
Correct.
Yeah. Like for the long time, they felt there was a correlation between social media and mental health. Now they are saying, no, there is causation, that the longer you are exposed to this, the more likely you're going to suffer with some type of behavioral health challenge. And it's the more hours you're on. Let's think about it. Everybody at this table, I'm going to say that, after school, maybe it's going to play hoops. Maybe it's going to play soccer. Maybe it's whatever.
Yeah.
Going to play in the woods. What happened at school, for the most part, and there's exceptions, you could see people on the basketball court.
Right.
But for the most part, it stayed there.
It did.
You were given a respite, if you will,
That's
from
not the
time.
case anymore.
There's no break.
And as another piece, school administrators now deal with inappropriate social media use.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to think of a good way to say that.
I was just going to come out and say we deal with a lot of crap,
Yeah,
including like
on social media because it gets brought into the school.
Right.
And so students are more focused on what's happening on social media than they are on what's learning and on learning. And I think, kids even posting stuff, and worried about how many likes they get.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up,
And
Stefan.
if you don't get a lot, it hurts your self-esteem.
I'm glad you brought that up.
So it's just like that didn't exist when we were kids. And by the way, thank you for that, because I'm glad I didn't have to deal with that as a kid. Right?
Well, what you're seeing now too, and you and I have just recently talked about this, and I don't know how successful it's going to be, but there are legitimately large school districts across the country trying to sue like Twitter and Facebook and
that's
Instagram, and I honestly don't know how far they'll get with that. Maybe we'll get some change in terms of usage, but I don't know.
There's a bit of personal responsibility.
That's
shut
the thing.
it off.
Right.
It's not compulsory that you're on social media.
So I think a couple things. One, there's a brilliant scholar who's one of the leading. His name's Judd Brewer. He's out of Brown University. He said, "You want to see if there's an impact on social media and mental health, social media and mental health." He goes, "Go in," and I did this with the Westfield State kids, and we had a good time, and I'm going to do it with all the groups. I'm going to say, ask them the last time they posted something on any one of their feeds, and they didn't go back and look at the likes. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. Zero.
Yeah.
And that leads to the social comparison. That leads to the self-esteem issues. And I'll be very honest with you. Something that I will do is I will post something on social media, and let's say I'll say Kelly Pease, because folks know who he is. He's the other Westfield rep, and I'll say, okay, Kelly posted the same thing. Let's go back. I want to see how many likes did he get. How many likes did he get? Now imagine you're
a kid,
12, 13, 14, 15. That social comparison. So, and I know we're running out of time. So
we're going to go a little over today. Are you okay with that?
That's fine. Yeah. Right. The private cause of action. So if you look at how individual states are responding to this, there's really two models that have been out there. There has been the Utah model, which has been, we're banning this.
We're banning it.
We're banning
right.
it. With an exception, though. We are going to give parental consent. So there's going to be an exception. If parents want to say, you can have access to this, then we're going to allow access, which I think raises a host of challenges, an outright ban, First Amendment issues. There's legal challenges already lined up.
Right.
And then there's the California model. And California is what we... And by we, I mean, I think I'm spearheading a lot of this, the design. So if you look at some of the meetings that I've had lately, scary. Let's say you could have a young girl who at some point in time had posted something about some type of a eating disorder.
Right.
Or some type of someone could be expressing suicidal ideations. Because of the way these algorithms are created, they will immediately start targeting that, because the whole goal is to keep them on.
Keep you hooked.
So we've seen things with the dieting example, being directed to advertisements of diet pills.
It's no coincidence that when you start talking about that, these ads start popping up on your feed, on your phone, on your computer, or wherever. And someone's listening somewhere.
Someone's listening. And I think that is the better, more legally sound, and probably what we're after here, because it's in the really ones that I even struggle to talk about sometimes are with the second example, where you have a young kid expressing some type of suicidal ideation. There have been instances where redirected to a chat group on ways to commit suicide.
And or other people reading that suicidal idea and then enforcing it. Yeah, go ahead, do it. Kill yourself.
Which we had that in Massachusetts.
Go ahead, do it. You don't so. When this first started, when Zap and I were building administrators, and when I always would call it like cyber muscles. Like kids would say things and do things on their phones and on an app that they would never say to another human being face to face.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a big problem. Is there's the decorum of social media is really what bothers me too. There's no decorum.
No.
So
there's there's keyboard. I know people get mad when people say it, but keyboard warriors is what comes to
keyboard
mind.
muscles. Yep.
You say things on social media that you wouldn't probably say in person.
He's right. Yes,
but hey, Pete, we're gonna take our next break.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. We got another song here. This is "Run Around" by Blues Traveler. It was number 14, but before that, we also have a Simpsons clip. I hope he's paying attention to me.
Good morning.
He is.
One donut with sprinkles and Wait a minute. These are not sprinkles, sir.
What do you mean?
You've clearly taken items from the candy rack and placed them on top of the donut in an attempt to pass them off as sprinkles.
Well, it was like there when I got here. It really was.
A Mounds bar is not a sprinkle. A Twizzler is not a sprinkle. A Jolly Rancher is not a sprinkle, sir. Perhaps in Shangri-La they are, but not here.
Oh.
Oh, once upon a midnight eerie, I woke with something in my head. I couldn't escape the memory of a phone call and of what you said. Like a game show contestant with a parting gift, I could not believe my eyes when I saw through the buds of a trusted friend who used to humor me and tell me lies. Yeah, humor me and tell me lies. And I'll lie to and say I don't mind. And as we seek, so shall we find. And when the feeling of it, I'll still be here. But now without a certain degree of fear, well, what will be with you and me? I still can't see things hopefully. But yeah, why you wanna give me a run around? Yeah, this surefire way to speed things up. When all it does is slow me down. Shake me in my confidence about a great many things. But I've been there, I can see it. Cower like a nervous magician waiting in the wings of a bad play where the heroes are right and nobody thinks or expects too much. And Hollywood's calling for the movie rights, singing, hey baby, let's keep in touch. Hey baby, let's keep in touch. But I want more than a touch. I want you to reach me and show me all the things no one else can see. So watch I feel we combine as well. And soon if we're lucky we'd be unable to tell what's yours and mine. The fishing's fine and it doesn't have to run. So don't you feel me alive? But yeah, now, why you wanna give me a run around? Yeah, there's surefire way to speed things up. When all it does is slow me down.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Superintendent Spotlight. So, as you know, it is National Donut Day. And I just want to give a shout out to Mrs. Murphy's Donuts in Southwick. Rose and Earl Murphy made their first batch of donuts in 1976.
Wow.
Still family owned, by the way. During the pandemic, they built a donut shack in the parking lot and closed the shop. And they still have the shack. They have not reopened the building, but they're open every Thursday through Sunday from 6 to 12. So in a moment, we are going to have a donut. But first, let's see what you think the year is. So the first song, again, You Are Not Alone, Michael Jackson. Second song was Let Her Cry, Hootie and the Blowfish. Third song, Run Around by Blues Traveler. And the last song will be Can't Stop Loving You by Van Halen. And that song was number 100 in the top 100. So that's.
I'm going to go 91.
Which one?
For all of them.
They're all
the same year?
They all came out
91.
in the same year. They were all in the top 100 on the Billboard charts of this year.
I know because I used Blues Traveler in a Channel 40 story, so it's either 91 or 92.
He threw you off right there. I think it seems like he threw you off a little.
No. Are you up next?
Sure.
Okay.
What's your guess?
I mean, Pete said that with such sincerity, such conviction. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
I can be a BS artist too.
My instinct was going to be, I'm going to go 95.
It's funny, John, because 95 was what I wrote down. The second song came on, which was what? That was
Let Her Cry,
Hootie
and the Blowfish. And I will tell you, I've seen Darius Rucker alone in Hootie and the Blowfish, and one of my favorite concerts.
I feel like Hootie was. Feel like they were last year, and you also said that. So you're a Hootie guy. It's good to know.
I am.
95 was my first choice, and I think I'll stay with it. My issue is the Van Halen song.
Yeah.
As a longtime Van Halen fan,
I do pick that to throw you off.
you did,
from time to time.
because Can't Stop Loving You was Sammy Hagar.
Wasn't Gary Sharon.
Was not Gary Sharon. It was Sammy Hagar, and I want to say, because I'm hedging now, because 1992 I think is when that song came out, and the reason I think I know that is because I was in England after I graduated from high school. That was my graduation present, and I spent most of that trip with that album on my Walkman, I think.
Love it.
So I think, John, the Hootie and the Blowfish is killing me, but I'm going to let John keep 95. I'm going to go 92.
You also had to stay with John. He's correct.
See,
95.
darn
Wow, really?
And I had it written down.
Are you serious?
You got it. That's
I had it written down.
Pretty good.
Wow.
All right, so listen, that does it for our show today. John, any closing thoughts or remarks? I want to thank you for being on the show and tackling this mental health crisis that is happening in our state and nation, although you don't have that kind of influence yet. I think it's an important topic, so thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks. And I love this. I love this back and forth. Looking forward to the next one. And just congrats to all the graduates, both tonight, tomorrow, and everywhere, and everybody that's part of that process, yourselves included, parents, grandparents, guardians, everything, teachers.
My speeches are done.
Yeah.
So in my speeches, I go back to when the students were kindergartners, right? So I start talking about, and this is an amazing thing, because it doesn't seem that long ago to me, but these students were kindergartners when we had our October storm. Do you remember the October?
What year was that?
How could we?
Yeah,
forget?
the
2011.
2011.
It was Halloween.
The
Yes.
Halloween storm where we had to postpone Halloween for a week. People lost power, right?
Where does the time go?
It's
Wow.
amazing. Does that seem that long ago to you? But it is.
Is that
12 years
also
ago.
Is that also the year of the tornado?
No,
that was today.
That was today.
12 years ago.
ago.
Oh, that's probably why I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah. Today.
But I remember that.
I remember that
that's
day.
That day too.
Yeah, Munger Hill had some damage.
Well, we had a staff meeting at North, and I remember it coming on over the wire, and I looked at Eileen Yakum. She looked at me and she said, "Let's get out of here."
Yeah.
I remember leaving Timmy for practice at Paper Mill because I was going to the South Side because I was already getting called in by Jim Wiggs. And then his coach was going to bring him home, and the coach's son was like, "Dad," he goes, "Isn't Timmy supposed to be going with us? Isn't he running after our pickup right now on the north side?" And that they said they could see stuff on the north side too.
Oh yeah.
I was in my barracks at Fort Benning, and a guy from a southern state came by and said, "Hey, is your family okay?" I'm like, "What?" He said, Massachusetts has a tornado right now. I told him to keep on moving. We don't get tornadoes. He was right.
There's a clock at Munger Hill that proves you wrong.
Yeah.
We also, what year was the earthquake? Remember the earthquake?
That was all that same year.
That was the same year, right?
It was all the same year. It was
And I-
2011.
Listen, I didn't present all that gloom and doom. It's graduation. All right, it was a tough year in college.
But I remember the earthquake because at my desk at North, I had a flower on it for some reason, and in a vase, and it went like this.
I was
started
working
moving like this.
We don't get earthquakes.
I was working at dispatch, and the leg iron started swinging on the wall. And I went, Sarge, did you just feel that? He goes, what? And then about an hour later, it started coming over the news. I'm like, yeah, that was what we saw, the leg iron swinging. He goes, holy crap, we did feel that earthquake.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had
not
saying,
focusing
I
on
survived.
all that tonight.
Yeah.
I got some positives too, you know. So, all right, folks, that's it for today. Next week, tune in. We have Jill Phelan, and we're going to talk all about Highland Elementary School. John, you've been a great guest as always. We appreciate having you. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Much.
Absolutely.
And we will see you tonight at graduation.
Absolutely.
All right, that's it for today, folks. We're about to dive into a Mrs. Murphy donut. So, happy Donut Day.
There's a time and place for everything, for everyone. We can push with all our might, but nothing's gonna come. Oh no, nothing's gonna change. And if I ask you not to try, oh, could you let it be? I wanna hold you and say we can throw this all away. Tell me you won't go, you won't go. You have to hear me say I can't stop loving you. And no matter what I say or do, you know my heart is true. Oh, I can't stop loving you. You can change your friends, your place in life. You can change your mind. We can change the things we say and do anytime.